Donald, you're probably the best known builder, particularly of great buildings in the city. There's a great deal of question about whether or not the damage and the ultimate destruction of the buildings was caused by the airplanes, by architectural defect, or possibly by bombs or aftershocks. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was an architectural defect. You know, the World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation, and it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid, and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall. Most buildings are built with the steel is on the inside around the elevator shaft. This one was built from the outside, which is the strongest structure you can have, and it was almost just like a can of soup.
You know, Donald, we were looking at pictures all morning long of that plane coming into building number 2, and when you see that approach the far side, and then all of a sudden, within a matter of a millisecond, the explosion pops out the other side.
Right. I just think that it was a plane with more than just fuel. I think, obviously, they were very big planes. They were going very rapidly because I was also watching where the plane seemed to be not only going fast, it seemed to be coming down into the building. So it was getting the speed from going downhill, so to speak. It just seemed to me that to do that kind of destruction is even more than a big plane, because you're talking about taking out steel, the heaviest caliber steel that was used on a building. I mean, these buildings were rock solid. And, you know, it's just an amazing thing. This country is different today, and it's going to be different than it ever was for many years to come.
Very profound statement and very true.
Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. I thought you'd find it entertaining to hear Trump give an analysis on the World Trade Center. So I thought it apropos to bring in. Donald Trump had doubts whether planes brought the World Trade Center down. He knew Silverstein, who bought which was mentioned here. Silverstein bought the building, what, six months before it exploded, or it was damaged by planes. All right, so Trump even says here that the planes hit simultaneously and suddenly the explosion went off. So all the theories about a plane bringing back two of the most powerful structures in the world is a fraud, inside job. What happened? Opinion, Jim. Welcome to the show, William Allen, Crisis Director from National Action Network.
Good to be here, my brother.
I thought opening up with a little crisis right
Wow.
there, right?
Yes.
Welcome to the show, William.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure, man. Tell us what you think.
Well, you know, I'm not a scientist nor a police investigator, but there still remains a lot of questions concerning what happened on 9/11. And I do remember when the first explosion happened in '93, largely because one of my best friends from middle school, who became a famous R&B artist, Paul Lawrence Jones, was in town with his young son at that time, and that's when that first bombing took place. And I remember Paul, myself, and Paul Jr. just sitting, just talking all day long about that, and we was amazed by that. And then when this 9/11 took place, it was like, really, you know, how could this be possible? And I remember the night before the horrific event took place, I was down there getting bagels because 9/11 was primary election day in New York City.
A beautiful day.
And
too.
so I was getting bagels and stuff for the next day to feed campaign staff and people working the polls.
That's right.
And so, and it's funny, I went to bed very late that night before, and when this stuff hit, I had already come back home, and I was in my den, and the TV was on, and I just thought it was a movie playing. I was like, why would they do that kind of movie? That looks real.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be very, very real. And so there's a lot of questions to be asked, and certainly with the 9/11 Commission book, it raised a lot of questions. A lot of folks don't read the report, but the report itself raised a lot of questions, and I've used that book in some of the classes I teach.
Leroy, how were you exposed to this?
Well, you know, the incident was a phenomenon in this way, that you're looking at something, the buildings are coming down, and your frame of reference are clips of hotels and coliseums being brought down by controlled explosive. But the commentary on TV is telling you something else. All the while, your memory bank is these buildings that you see that we would have seen periodically of hotels that were no longer being used, just coming down by controlled explosives. So here they give you the 3-card Monte. Here they give you the 3-card Monte, which is, here you see what's happening, but they're telling you something different. Compared, we look at the 3 buildings coming down, but there was an amateur analyst back in that time who was asking about the Pentagon. In the Pentagon, if the same planes hit the buildings and caused that kind of damage, what happened to the Pentagon? It was only a hole.
That's right.
Okay? And taking that a little bit further, there was a black woman who was in the Pentagon at that time. She was right next to where the plane went in. And she was expecting or had just had a baby and had to come back to work. And I did interview her. I tracked her down and interviewed her because she was on other shows. And she said, there wasn't no big plane that hit that place. That's what she maintained.
Pentagon.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a missile.
Okay.
Directed at there's a whole, I've done a dozen shows on this. I mean, me and Graham's not here today, but he actually went down into the vault and actually saw
the World Trade.
The World Trade. He went down in the vault and saw the chippings on the vault down there. The firemen were trying to get into the vault. I'm sorry Graham's not here to tell that story. But it is a phenomenal. And at the time we were doing these stories in 2002 and 3, people in the studio were saying, you better be careful, you know. Because they were suspecting that the CIA or whoever was in conspirators had planned this planned demolition. And the curious thing about this is that Building 7, came down at 5:30 in the afternoon by planned demolition. You could see that that was planned, and the thing just collapsed like planned demolition. And these haven't been investigated to this day. And you go on the internet today, and you can't find most of the conspiracy theories that were out there way back then. It disappears. This footage, let me show you number 2. Run number 2, and this is the footage I got back from an old tape I ran in 2003, because I couldn't find it on the internet anymore. Okay? So run number 2,
Very
and we'll
good.
come back at you. That number 2 ready?
Gave an order not to shoot, or else no doubt there would have been shots fired. The question is, who gave the order? And just as Silverstein accidentally told PBS that they had explosives in place in Building 7,
and they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Norman Mineta, the Secretary of Transportation, accidentally told the 9/11 Commission who gave the order not to attempt to intercept or shoot down the planes. Mineta testified that at 9:28 he was in a bunker under the White House with Vice President Cheney.
There was a young man who would come in and say to the Vice President, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the Vice President, do the orders still stand? And the Vice President turned and whipped his neck around and said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
Cheney said, the order still stands, and a few moments later a plane smashed into the Pentagon. A giant, slow-moving 757 that could not even have penetrated Pentagon airspace on September 10th. On September 11th, not only penetrated Pentagon airspace, but crashed into the Pentagon. So, what was Cheney talking about when he said, the order still stands? What order still stands? Obviously, with all the vast defenses in place to protect the Pentagon, if it was an order to shoot, the plane would have been shot down, no? Isn't that obvious? If it were an order to shoot, the people who failed to fire even one shot would have incurred the wrath of Dick Cheney, would have been court-martialed instead of promoted, no? If it were an order to shoot, the young man would not have run to Cheney to find out if the order still stood. He would have been busy carrying out the order to shoot, obviously. So it's also obvious that Cheney had ordered the defenses not to shoot, but to stand down. He had ordered no shots to be fired. No wonder the young officer couldn't believe it. Can you believe it? Because Mineta's sworn testimony provides the clearest possible evidence for a criminal indictment to be brought against Cheney. And this indictment must be brought against him and the rest of these criminals before they kill again. If we don't stop them, I'm afraid, we will deserve what we get. These criminals have already been shown to have used anthrax, biological weapons from military stockpiles, against American citizens, including U.S. senators. What this article says is that the anthrax which killed secretaries in Senator Daschle's offices matches exactly the DNA of the anthrax manufactured by the U.S. military. Both samples had to have come from the exact same cow. They've already been shown to be studying methods for delivering these weapons massively against the American people. For your own sake, for the sake of your children and grandchildren, sign this petition. Take it and circulate it and return it to us. It may already be too late to stop them, but it's way too early to quit trying.
You see that 9/11 info, Justice. I bet you can't find it on the internet now. It's just showing, you know, with all the conspiracy theories that's been, well, you know by fact that two planes didn't bring those World Trade Center buildings down. In fact, no building in the history of the planet has come down by fire. So these people are living with a lie. Here it is, 18, 19 years old. And those firemen rushing into the building, they were sacrificing themselves. And to have it blow up in your face?
That's
the truth of the matter. Now here we are 18 years later, and Donald Trump is president.
Well,
What's the state of affairs in Black America?
great
though?
that you pull this footage because it gives the viewers an opportunity to compare what they're hearing and what they're seeing on so-called general media, and they're not getting this kind of insight.
Right.
Conspiracy theories is a term, my estimation, is a term used to deflect actual analysis. And we might coin our own phrase, conspiracy analysts or conspiracy analysis, as opposed to using their term of conspiracy theorists, because that's setting oneself up for dismissive. Dismissive. You can just brush it aside. You know, these guys don't know what they're talking about. But what you've shown is somebody else's assessment.
Interpretation, right.
And then there's the website of the architects and engineers, and that's over 2,000 architects and engineers who have analyzed this thing, and they're coming from the standpoint of structure, materials,
Physics.
et cetera, et cetera. I mean, their thing is detail.
Okay.
Architects and engineers. So for the value of this kind of format, you know, what you're doing and what you've done in other shows is extremely, extremely important for the audience that usually is given
different information.
Bad news.
Well, the point is that today, if you go on, I pulled up another one from recent, and they show how there was structurally damage, that the steel beams actually warped and collapsed within themselves. I mean, they've got a beautiful analysis of how this thing was default in the beginning. And it was just such lies, and to listen to it, to see how well done it was. It just shows how we're just being lied to. And Donald Trump is a classic example. And it's just, I mean, it's...
When you say
I'm
classic example...
Of a liar. I mean,
well,
and 18 years ago, he told the truth about this, all right? So and one of his fellow developers, Silverstein, was behind the whole plot, so I thought he was involved with it. I guess this Silverstein wound up making $4 billion out of this catastrophe, all right? And people are still suffering to today. The firemen, which really, my heart goes out to, you know, rushing into a building, man, and then having it explode on you. Well, how could they do such a thing?
They're going in to save people.
Yeah. That's like sending in the Marines and all of a sudden they blow it up.
That's, people have to reflect on that. And you listen to different channels, you listen to different radio stations, and you're not, when you see this kind of footage that you've shown, no questions are being asked in the delivery of these stories today or yesterday. No, nothing that would question what happened.
And I think from the last 2.5 years Trump has come into office, a lot of this stuff has disappeared off the map. They're seeing that the controls that are being put in place. You have to think about the amount of judges he's put into effect. And everybody knows he's dead wrong. and I mean, a blind man can see this. I mean, how can he get away with it? It makes it look so weak.
I'm laughing because Trump...
It's terrible. He's a joke, but he's not a joke. You know why he wanted to buy Greenland? Because when the ice melts under the cap, and the ice cap on the North Pole, it's full of oil reserves up there in Greenland and Russia. So him and Trump are getting together to try to... That's why they don't want climate change to be affected. They want the caps up there to melt so they can get to the oil. You've heard it here. You'll probably hear it on some other program a year from now. But you'll see that's why he wanted to buy Greenland, because of the oil up there. I remember I said it here. All right?
How is it that a president can just up and say, I want to buy this land?
Because people think he's joking.
No, well,
But we know the reason behind it, though. He acts like a fool, but he's smart as hell. He's the
crazy
biggest
as
con,
like a fox.
biggest con we've ever seen, because he's from New York. The biggest cons in the world come from New York, I think. I mean, that's just my opinion. But
I want to address Brother Will Allen in terms of the kind of crisis that occurred after that. People looking for their family. People knowing that they were on the phone with their father, their wife, and they were in the buildings, or they were somewhere in the vicinity. And talk about the crises that you run into in terms of the National Action Network and how the people come to get the number to call.
Yeah. So this is a little different from what happened that day. And I know several people that perished in that event. And one is Clyde Frazier Jr. of Harlem. And I try to reach his father today to just see how he's doing, because he lost his son in that horrific situation. At National Action Network, we get about 150 plus calls a week.
Right now.
Right now.
yeah,
People that's in all kind of crisis, but more importantly, people just in search of information
yeah,
of how do I do this to resolve this, from people's titles to their homes being stolen.
right.
Somebody can't find a spouse or a child who's been lost in the system.
Right.
A father who lost his job after family court kind of failed him. Great job, paying for his kids, and all of a sudden the system just dropped a brick on him,
Right.
where he can't no longer function at work, and so now he has no job. You know, one call was a mother called from Indiana. Her son had just turned 21. He started his first job as a truck driver. He went to, I forget what state it was. They found him hanging in the cabin of his truck, and they claim it was a suicide. I mean, these
Hanging in a truck.
hanging in a truck, a 21-year-old African-American kid, and they claim it was a suicide, but there was no evidence that he had any kind of mental health issues affecting him. And so these are some of the crises that come to the National Action Network, largely because of Reverend Sharpton's work in the past, but more importantly, his visibility in the media today. And so people are constantly reaching out to him, and they reach out to him through the National Action Network, and it's overwhelming. You know, we got 104 chapters, and part of my task is trying to train them to help handle these cases, because that's the only capacity. We need that kind of capacity to really follow up with these people. And certainly one of the things that we do is not hand people fish, but give them a fishing rod and work with them in terms of how they can resolve their issue. You know, because sometimes people come to you like you're a clinic or a hospital, and then they go away, and the hospital might not have a budget. Next time they come back, the hospital not be standing. And so it's so important to train our people, black people, you know, how to manage crisis, and then once we give them the skills, how they can continue to help their families and their neighbors and their community. We charge them with the responsibility now of being crisis managers.
Yeah.
And so that's what we pass on.
Well, you can find who comes to the National Action Network.
Yeah.
You know, I'm there watching William when he comes in. And when he came on board, I was so happy to see him.
Thank you.
William, I've been friends for 30 years now. And he's always been active in the community here. I mean, you've always been on top of it, even as a young kid. I mean, in his 20s.
Yeah, younger than that.
You know, 19. I think you took a picture with Jesse Jackson.
Jesse Jackson, but I actually started as a young teen when I was on the community board.
Yeah. So you've seen it all. I mean, you've seen the changes here. I remember you were living in Graham Towers when they had a chance to buy it. Who was it? First Corinthians had a chance to buy that. at one time,
It was
wasn't
First Corinthians and Memorial
going for-
Baptist Church.
How much was it going for back then? You remember? $500,000?
Less than $500,000.
Less than $500,000.
Less than $500,000. And at that time, when a lot of
Grand Court,
property
you
was
know Grand
available, you know, our own people did not see the value
Yeah.
of the land
'Cause it
or
was
the buildings,
mid-80s.
and you would hear things like, "Why would I want that raggedy building?"
That
And so
beautiful
somebody did a great job of miseducating us about the
Right,
value of
exactly.
land and
There you go.
assets.
Exactly.
And so we had the mindset, because we were conditioned to have that mindset,
Exactly.
to not only give no value to ourselves, but don't even give out any value to the land that we're on. And had we gave it some value, we would be different people in the city. For example, up into the early 90s, the city of New York owned nearly 82% of Harlem real estate.
Yeah, I had quite a few. I was in real estate at the time, 85.
And in order to transfer that land to other hands, it requires a vote of the city council. And the rule is that you always go with the district council member.
So
You
you
know,
guys
and-
had a chance to choose who bought the
Yes, so whoever was the
property?
council person at that time, the question should be asked them, what
Oh,
happened?
I wish I'd have ran into you back then.
Yeah, what happened? Well, I was out there with flyers and stuff and trying to educate people, but even that was overwhelming when you don't have a lot of other voices doing that. You know, it was sad, and at best, even with when HCCI was formed, Harlem Congregational Community with
Oh, yeah.
Imam
Washington.
Ali and Preston Washington.
Preston Washington.
Yeah, so it was Preston, and it was the Imam that Shabazz mosque. They came together and they were able to convince David Dinkins and Bill Lynch to support the Bradhurst project, and the city gave them $200 million
Whoa.
from 139th Street to 155th Street.
What
And
years are we talking?
We're
80s,
talking
right?
about 89
Oh, okay.
to the early 90s.
Okay.
But the mayor that came after Dinkins cut the
Giuliani.
budget
Yeah.
by 50% and took all the teeth out of it.
Yeah.
And took a lot of the browns and put them in market rate hands, and that changed the whole program. And so you then had this luxury stuff being built that really worked against, creating middle income, working
Yeah.
class, affordable housing and commercial opportunity.
gentrification of Harlem.
Yeah, but it could have been stopped because at the end of the day, it's all public policy.
That's right.
It's all public policy. As you
We
mentioned,
had a
it's still.
stronger hand then.
Yeah, you had a strong hand, and you have a vote, and you elect people, and you create an agenda like everybody else, and you say, here's what we're going to do, and we got the votes to do it, and we got the reps to do it. And so when you lose the political power, that power gets transferred or gets to be used by somebody else, and their interest is different. Just like now you have a new president who has different interests, right?
They changed everything Obama did.
Exactly.
Anything Obama put in that was halfway decent.
Yeah, they turn him into his programs like into demagogues. How can a president be a demagogue if he's trying to change how people access health? I don't get that.
I think it's just people.
Obamacare. I would want Obamacare. I would want to know that someone in need of health care gets the services. I mean, that's what you do as a part of humanity.
Right.
To not give that to people, it's almost like being in the Middle Ages of Europe or someplace where you let people just croak and die on the street, and you scrape up their body and throw it into a can.
Well, you see what Trump is doing. That's what white supremacy brings to bear. It's a classic example. If you want a white supremacist, you've got one right there. His father was a Klansman. His grandfather. So, let's roll number 4, and we'll give you a good idea of William Allen on Saturday Action Network rally every Saturday at NAN, National Action Network. Run number 4, please.
Is words to us this morning. Right now, the Honorable William Allen, our National Crisis Director.
Good morning. Again, we have a report, and I certainly want to thank those who help out in crisis all across the country, every single chapter, and certainly here in New York City, we're holding down not only for those in crisis here in our city and our state in this metropolitan area, but the New York City chapter in particular has been helping the entire nation, and I just want to say thank you. We've had about 300 crisis-related calls or contacts this week again, and I got to tell you, it's, I don't take pride in often giving this report because sometimes there's so much sadness in these cases, and but they need our help. And I just want to thank those who come every Tuesday here to the House of Justice, and those, thank you for coming out, helping to make the phone calls, reviewing all the crisis letters that we received, the plethora of emails and text messages, and even the drive-bys I get on the corner, almost every street here in Harlem. People are now knowing that I'm doing this work here. I just want to report to you what's really happening quickly around the nation in terms of some of the typical cases that we're getting and how we're seeking resolution, but I also want to know, we had a success story this week. There was a musician from Kentucky, Londell, who came to the House of Justice. He needed a ticket to get back to Kentucky a few days ago, and we were able to get him that ticket. So he's now back in Louisville. And he contacted me, so I'm very happy, and I want to thank Minister Stephen Marshall for facilitating that. Wow. In Jacksonville, Arkansas, a man seeks assistance after being arrested in Florida for carrying a weapon. In Philadelphia, a man seeks a lawyer because he believes that he is being targeted by police and harassed by others in his community. In Longview, Texas, a man seeks assistance for a friend whose husband was killed on the job in 2007, wants to file a wrongful death lawsuit. In Hawthorne, California, a man seeks help after he experienced hate crimes due to his sexual orientation and claims that the police is discriminating against him. In Tucson, Arizona, a mother seeks assistance after her daughter and son are being harassed by an ex-lover. In Atlanta, Georgia, a woman seeks justice after family was targeted and their civil rights violated. In Fairmont, California, a man seeks a lawyer for a civil rights matter. In St. Louis, Missouri, a mother requests assistance after her incarcerated son is brutally treated in prison. And right here in Union, New Jersey, a woman seeks assistance because her landlord charges more rent to the non-white tenants. In Montgomery, these are some of the cases all around our country, and this is just typical cases. Montgomery, Alabama, a sibling seeks justice for her brother who was falsely charged and imprisoned for 30 years. Elizabeth, New Jersey, a man seeks assistance in recovering his security deposit after he was evicted from his apartment. In Tampa, Florida, a black man who happened to be a pharmacist and a dentist who shared practice with his daughter seeks justice after his practice is constantly harassed and was raided 5 times. An operating controlled substance certificate was removed by the Drug Enforcement Agency, then to DOJ criminal investigation units for the 4th time. More specific highlights in New York State. In Queens, a woman seeks justice for a civil rights issue. In the Bronx, an elderly Bronx woman seeks assistance in lowering her rent via government assistance funds. A Bronx man seeks justice after he was falsely accused in a domestic violence matter. Here in Harlem, a woman seeks justice after she learned that discrimination exists against black women that are assigned to assist with providing repairs to Hurricane Sandy victims in NYCHA. Another case in Harlem, a mother seeks justice after her daughter was attacked in prison while the congressional officer watched and did nothing. And in the Bronx, the last highlighted case, an 81-year-old woman seeks assistance in getting suitable housing for her age and disabilities. So these are the cases I'm reporting. We're doing a lot to help our elderly with rent reduction applications, and certainly we're working with those who are returning citizens out of prison, helping them to get their certificate of good conduct and release. And again, I just want to thank the entire organization that's really been helping out with crisis. If you want to volunteer, please reach out to us, 877-626-4651, 877-626-4651.
And don't you think? You do a lot, man. I mean, I see you taking on the headaches. See, See, National Action Network is sometimes the last stop for
Yeah.
a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially if you're black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we have to understand how much pressure we are under this racist president that we have.
Yes.
And we have to understand how much help we really need mentally,
Yeah.
because this is a crisis. We're celebrating 400 years of slavery here in this country.
1619. That's right.
Slave of the mind and physical slavery for a good 250 years. And the rest was mental slavery. Now we're enslaving our own minds and letting this sucker in the White House with his white supremacist attitude bring on even more demonic spirit to us. Because all we do is see no hope, no survival of this onslaught. And if this fool gets in the White House again, and just the thought of him being reelected drives me crazy. I mean, I just shun. People say, I said, get out of here. No
It
way.
should drive us together.
I know, but it doesn't. But it doesn't.
No.
What it does is, most people they'll see, well, this has been a con all this time. How it's always been a con.
We're always
Everybody
gonna
is
have,
a con.
We're always going to have naysayers in our own group.
That's right.
The people you turn to unite on an issue, they're going to tell you it can't be done.
That's right.
Right?
But the power of one is reflected all through our history.
Okay.
Harriet Tubman is one woman, organized people one group after another, and had the gun to force the the informant to stay in the group. So the informant
Can you
wouldn't go back.
imagine how much trouble she really had trying to convince a bunch of black people to move
You
where
heard what
they're
she said.
accustomed to
You heard what she
into
said.
a foreign area which they knew nothing about and knew nothing about the mentality. Look at the mentality of the
Power
people.
of one.
Right.
Marcus Garvey. We still, those of us who know, still repeat, up you mighty nation, you can accomplish
Okay.
what you will. You see, it's always the one. We have, you talked about the political, you touched on the political structure aspect in Harlem. I mean, I was just shocked when I went to a congressional office. They didn't have a map of the congressional district of Harlem and told me I was taking up too much time. So I went and did more research, and when I found it, it's accessible on the internet, but you have to go. I went up to Albany. They sent me back to 250 Broadway, and there's some office there. But anyway, the point is, the congressional district of Harlem is no longer Harlem. It goes all the way up to Van Cortlandt Park. Van Cortlandt Park.
Is that right?
Van
How
Cortlandt
could
goes
that-
up to Riverdale. It
how is it
goes.
possible?
It's been gerrymandered during the time that we sitting here and talking. Nobody sounded the alarm within the political structure of New York City, within the black political structure, that the district had been gerrymandered. Gerrymandered to the extent where
Van
it
Cortlandt
covers the Dominican community, and they're deprived of a seat that would have been access to them based on the population going Washington Heights up.
Right.
But it's been gerrymandered through that district, so now they have that seat, which is the congressional seat of Harlem, in my estimation.
So we're fighting amongst each other.
Well, you're
for
fighting
power.
if you don't understand how we've been pitted against one another.
Well, that's the point.
But
That
we
was
don't have to
designed.
buy into it. We don't have to buy into it. There are ways of working and dealing. And the first one is information and education to inform your people of what's going on. The housing, there are a lot of us who just plain dumb as to acquisition of housing, co-ops, condos, et cetera. I mean, don't know. And I don't exclude myself from that group. However, within the housing, within HPD, there appears to be a deep state that maintains things the way they have been. That's where you get the stealing of property. Stealing of property in New York, I'm sorry that Graham is not here, he knows he's touched on it in conversation. That's done with the help of somebody on the inside.
Of course. He's brought up
There's
many
one guy,
stories.
Carnegie. He's a councilman
In Brooklyn.
Young brother. Different spirit. Different spirit. And I feel that I know I'm going to try to do a show with him on the show I do.
Okay.
But he talks very, very well. And I think a lot of political people or community people are pulled into situations. In other words, we're drafted by the people. So here's Will Allen. He comes in, he's crisis manager, blah, blah, blah. All these calls start coming. He's got to reflect. How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to educate other people? How am I going to tell my people who are not involved in this that this is happening?
Oh.
But it's beyond Trump. Trump is just, he's the icon
That's right.
that allows this pimple to come. I'm saying that because what Will laid out is that Giuliani did the same thing when so it's a mindset that we're dealing with. Real
Racism.
people, but there's a mindset.
Giuliani was a racist, right?
Yeah, it was.
Still
This
there.
guy. He's so bad that
He's in there with Trump.
But anyway, that's the point I wanted to make. That we're looking for young leadership, and the we are the people, and we have to, like the brother that's down in Morehouse, that went to Morehouse, you know.
Julian.
Yeah, you know,
He comes out of Nan.
yeah, and that's a tremendous. Look, I recommend to the audience who's watching to tune in to Nan to Sharpton Saturday mornings. It's on from 9 to 11.
9 to 11.
9 to 11.
And I stream it live on www.MNN, oh my goodness, nationalactionnetwork.net.
Yep.
At least you
Every Saturday.
It's a free gathering. Go and become involved in the community. You don't have to like Leroy. You don't have to like Will. You don't have to, but go where information is.
That's right.
I tell you, a National Action Network is Saturday. It's church for me.
Me too.
It's church.
Yeah.
Reverend Sharpton has such a keen mind that
Brilliant.
He's a man that came out of the struggle. I mean, there's the struggle right there, just watching him.
Yeah, that's right.
And how he's adapted to every situation. And, you know, anytime something comes at him, but he's got that basis of God in his heart, man. And he shows it.
Yeah.
He shows it. And he gets up on the podium, I mean, he might be another human being off the pulpit, but he gets up there and his interpretation of every Saturday, and never ceased. I've been there 21 years, and he never ceased to amaze me. I mean,
you know, I've known him a long time. I met him when I was a kid. And I had questions. I'll be honest with you. I had a lot of questions.
We all do.
And I got to tell you, since I've been with him daily in his organization, I marvel. I'm amazed because all the people that's calling, and I look at his work because I've had some cases I had to bring to him, like for example, the Patador family that died in the Niger apartment fire in Harlem on 142nd Street. He personally went into his pocket to help pay for the funerals. And it wasn't on any press release or nothing. He wasn't judging how many baby daddies and all those other kind of. He had no judgment other than the fact that these people died in a horrific fire and they deserve a proper funeral and burial. That was his only, that was all. I see him how he even handled the A$AP Rocky. Here's a kid that we need to pull in, because here's a kid that said, oh, I'm not from Harlem, I'm from Beverly Hills and Soho. Like, really? And in spite of all the stuff he said about not supporting his culture and understand the fight of black folks, Reverend Sharpton didn't judge this guy.
No.
He said, you know what? I'm going to help him get out of there. And hopefully in my effort, he'll understand what this is all about. Because sometimes we can, you become a rich black person and you're in a different lane sometimes you really believe that something else is happening for you until you find yourself walking down somebody's street and all of a sudden you're attacked, you know. And so I got a chance to see him handle all these situations, and I see from him so much humility that I didn't think existed. I didn't think he was humble. I'll be straight up. And I got to see his humility now straight up, and his patience. And so, you know, if we all get a chance to grow in wisdom, you know, I see it looks like God has been patient with him and allow him to grow in wisdom, and so we can grow in wisdom as a community. Because I say to myself, where would we be if he wasn't here? And that scares me. Where, you know, because I don't want to get caught in the cult of personality and single, you know, leadership, because we all got to have a level of responsibility. But I got to say to myself, where would people turn to?
There's no place to go.
Where would they go?
I look at Arthur.
I'm concerned about that.
I look at Arthur, and you know, we get clowns and cut-ups and all sorts of people coming to national action.
That's right. That's right.
You know how black people can be. I mean, if you're down and out, you know, you gonna come cut up, and especially if you've got something in your system. You know, and mostly, you know, the liquor store down 4 doors away, so you get Harlem coming in there.
That's right.
And but Trish has a whoa, and she's been blessed because of her humility. I think God just placed it in her hands just to see what she'll do with it.
Exactly.
And she's going to do righteous by it.
Yeah.
You watch.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, like I say, it's church, and Reverend Sharpton's the pastor.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it in my mind.
That's the case.
I tithe every Saturday.
That's the case.
I come in and tithe.
Yeah, that's the
case. I
case.
stick to the principle of tithing.
That's right.
And in my church.
That's right.
And I receive nothing but joy and
exactly.
I'm helping people.
He's able to look at scripture and contemporary issues, and look at some historic biblical issue and say, okay. And then he's able to then wrap that around a current situation or crisis, and his message, it always ends with, what is the action? What do you do to help make this different? What do we must do to help this different? And so I'm now seeing at the rallies every week, where now I'm beginning to see people even actually wanting to do more.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll leave with this whole good feeling, but getting them to act.
You know, well, you got to mention
so
legal
now
night.
I got 16 crisis volunteers on Tuesday.
Mention legal night.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, legal night we have at National Action Network. It's the last Thursday in the month. It was created by attorney Michael Hardy, who is an incredible legal scholar and civil rights attorney. And I've been here since February, and every legal night we have from 100 to 200 people seeking legal help from lawyers, and I mean and it's free. I mean, it's a resource that people can come to, because sometimes when people are getting lawyers, sometimes people don't know how to manage their relationship with their lawyer, and sometimes people get cheated. So one of the things that we do at NAN, we teach people how to manage their legal advice, how to manage that relationship, how to also conduct their own research so they can ask questions of the attorney and be proactive in their own case, as opposed to say, oh, lawyer, please help me, save me. No. Say, here's my issue. Please let me know, what is the plan of how you're going to approach this? Just like if I was a business person, you come to me and say, I need you to build a house. I'll come back with a budget. I'll come back with phases. I'll show you exactly how I'm going to do things. Well, people need to expect that of their attorneys as well. And that's what we help train them to do.
I've seen many crisis directors there. Well, we had, your mentor, Teresa.
She created the crisis program.
Man, she was fascinating.
Yeah. She did it from the belly, from the heart, and that's why she was so popular. In fact, now I know why she was. I knew she was popular. I couldn't really always put my finger on it, but since I've been doing this work, and everybody comes to Teresa, I said, oh, I see what happened. I see what she was doing.
Yeah.
She had sat there all these years, and all these Harlem people kept marching in and out, and she was there for them. and that made the difference. So I'll share. I know you want to talk, move on. I
No,
see the
no,
time.
we're
Okay,
here.
so
This is
I'll give you a
your
story.
time. That's why I
Back in
mentioned that.
back in '99, Teresa Freeman, Beverly Austin, and I were having a conversation
God.
about Harlem politics. And we was not always on the inside. We've been on the inside and outside.
Right.
Outside when they just don't do the right thing
Yeah.
by our people, and we start raising issues and looking at them from the congressman all down. And so this particular time, Teresa had wanted me to be the district manager of Community Board 10. She had me apply for the job. She lobbied for the job. She got the appropriate committee to agree that I was going to be the candidate. And something went wrong, and they pushed us out of the opportunity. So she said, okay, then I go give us that. She said, I'm running you for office.
Right?
I said, what? She said, I'm going to run you for district leader. I said, district leader, why? She said, the same people that stepped you in the job is the people that we're going to take that seat. And and we ran and we won the seat. And that's how I started. It was her call.
That's
At
right.
that time I said, district leader, is that a job? Is there a salary? She said, no. She said, but
Teresa was something else.
she was influence. She was incredible. And when we won, she said, William, when we win, they're going to diminish our victory. So they put me on the front page of the Amsterdam News and said that we stole the election from the that they claimed that this flyer that was out there, they claimed that we created it. We said, no, we did not create it. Actually, Ronnie Holly, a former district leader who was also mad at them, actually created a flyer as a joke. It was really never circulated. But he rubbed it in the faces of the opponents. And so they latched onto that as though we needed that to win. The flyer had me in the middle and all the other elected officials around me saying that they endorsed me. So they had believed that in order for me to win, I need their faces. And they didn't realize that people that came out to vote in this off election year hated those faces. And so Teresa already had identified where our votes were, and we didn't need those faces. But they had to vilify me to justify their own situation. They said, you know what? The only way you can win in Harlem, you need us. So they would have to say, yeah, William won because he had this flyer with our faces on it.
Right.
And that's not what happened.
Okay.
You know, and had Teresa health been a little differently, we would have been able to do some more election of myself and others who share that progressive tone in Harlem, and things would be a lot different. But it's really tough. You know, some of our greatest challenge is not from other folks, but the folks inside our own community that don't believe that they have the power to bring about the difference, and that sometimes they're waiting for someone else to do things that they have the power to do themselves.
Last few minutes that we have, do you have anything you'd like to see the community come to you with?
Yeah, I mean, I encourage them to
How
come
can
by
we
NAN, National Action Network, House of Justice. We're there every day, Monday through Saturday. Please come by, learn what we're doing, and learn how it can help you. At the end of the day, you can either point at somebody and hold them accountable to what's happening in your life, or you can choose to be active in your own life and bring about the change.
Amen.
And we welcome you to come join us so we can show you how to be the leader that you should be.
That's it.
And Saturday, this coming Saturday, is a very, very opportune time to come by, because at 12 noon at NAN, National Action Network, there is a forum on vaccines.
Vaccines,
The
that's
truth
right.
About vaccines.
Truth about vaccines.
The truth about vaccines. Okay.
They have a panel.
Have a panel.
The panel consists of top-notch people in
Yeah.
the area. It's not
Thank you
just
for mentioning that.
somebody coming along. This is very critical
Okay.
for families with young children, or what you call women of childbearing age.
That's right.
To come,
Okay.
because they can get the understanding of a vaccine that is out there and has been out there that has given black boys autism.
Right.
This is very, very critical. It's Saturday at noon. at the
Okay.
National Action Network, 145th Street, Malcolm X Boulevard.
That's right.
106 West 146th
106 West 145th
12
Street
noon.
between
Be
Adam
there
and Malcolm.
early
46th.
because the folks from all over New York
Yeah.
are going to come.
It's going to be huge.
And I'll
People
be
gotta come
streaming
out.
it. I'll be
Yep.
streaming it.
Thank you for mentioning that, Brother Leroy.
This is
Yeah.
is critical. The Nation of Islam is the first one that took up this banner
Okay.
within the black community.
See that?
All right.
Robert Kennedy Jr.
That's right.
had tried to get the black congressional caucus to hold a hearing whereby the whistleblower would have an opportunity to put this thing on a congressional record. But no one stepped forward. I think one congressperson in Florida has taken up, but
Okay.
he could not. The brother, Robert Kennedy, came to the nation as a result of the Black Caucus not putting any push behind it. And the Final Call newspaper had front page, the truth about vaccine and autism, about 2 years ago. And I recommend to the black
Which
community.
Vaseline gives you autism? Which one was it?
It's the what they call it, mumps, measles, rubella. The thing. Go into the internet and put in black boys getting autism from vaccines. You know.
But we're here all that Saturday, right?
Yeah, we'll get all that
Saturday at
Saturday.
noon.
We'll get the data,
Okay.
And a lady is coming
evidence-based stuff.
from, she's in Texas, Ely,
Wait a minute.
Mary Ely. She's coming in. She
Give me your
has
phone
a
number
story.
again.
She
Give me
has
your
a
phone
story
number.
to tell. It's,
Yeah, you can
for
call
crisis.
877-626-4651, and we can provide all the information leading up to
Give that
Saturday
number again.
and post 877-626-4651.
And you've been enjoying the Gilchrist experience. We've given you a few knowledgeable notes about 9/11. When you give you the crisis director here in Harlem, that you can come see if you got anything wrong.
The National Crisis
Yeah,
Director,
national
located in
cri-
Harlem.
Now he handles the entire nation.
40
all right?
states.
And he's a busy man. I watch him. I watch him in his crisis. 'Cause I'm right next to. I'm just in charge of the video. I don't get to do the hard work. But it's amazing. Power to the people. I missed 58. We still have the Bronx. Got another 45 seconds.
Well, I'm always recommending the black community support black media.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the Challenge, the Beacon, the Amsterdam,
That's
the
right.
Final Call,
That's right.
Caribbean News.
That's right.
The Harlem News. Read what's going on. Don't depend on the TV.
Hey.
They ever thought about doing a joint marketing campaign in our community, like a simple flyer that lists all those groups,
That's
and
a good
and go
idea.
hit development, say here's
gotta
black
go,
media,
guys.
because we assume that people know that they exist.
We're going to do that.
Yep.
The God
There
in
you
me
go.
loves the
I
God
keep
in
it
you.
simple. I keep
Stay
it, and let me
tuned
help
for
with
more of
that,
the
because
Gilchrist
that's part of
experience.
crisis.
Power to the people.
People
God
got to
bless.
get information to their people, and we need to do that. You got me. Tell me what you. I want to do that. Imagine we do a marketing campaign for black media, and we start hitting all the black community. It's a
do
joint
another
marketing
show.
campaign.
Come up with
A
something.